the reason our fearless leader, our cheater, and the reason he is closing Planned Parenthood, sorry about that, the reason he is closing Planned Parenthood, what's the word I want? Planned Parenthood offices is because too many white women are abortions. And he thinks that's what Planned Parenthood gives us. That isn't what Planned Parenthood is for. It's to help women with the many, many problems that they have. But he thinks all they're for is abortion in white people. When in 1987, when the book The Birth Dearth was written, and that's the word, that plus the writings of Adolf Hitler are what this man is basing his governmental policies on. In 1987, 60% of the fetuses that were aborted every year were white. Then we started closing Planned Parenthood clinics. In 2018, only 39% of the aborted fetuses were white. Are we succeeding in increasing the number of white births? Yes, we are. It's a cute trick, and it's what he wants to do, increase the number of white babies being born in this country. The whole thing is so ludicrous and based on a lie. We should have gotten over it a long time ago. But it's hard to get over if, when you go to church and pray about it, and you hear the preacher standing in front of a white male on the cross. Now, the Bible says that Jesus had kinky woolly hair, animal-like hair, and feet of bronze. And now we know that he was an Ethiopian Jew. Well, if you're from Ethiopia, the chances are pretty good that you ain't pink.
Is it fear, envy, or ignorance that fuels this fire that they just refuse to let go of?
It is ignorance, and people like Donosaurus T. Rump, or whatever you want to call him, keep encouraging and inciting fear in people so that they will fear people of color. He wants to build a wall on the southern border of the United States so he can keep those brown-skinned people out, because he has said several times, we've got to keep out here because brown-skinned people reproduce too freely. Too many brown-skinned people is going to really kill the number of the people who have power in this country. This is all about racism. Make no mistake about that. If we can keep you afraid of, for instance, that ignorant white female with her dog called the cops to come and stop the black man in the park who was a bird watcher who asked her to leash her dog. And she called the police and told them, I think he's going to attack me. He's attacking me. Please send someone up. They sent a patrol car out to put a stop to a black man who was asking a pale-faced woman to leash her dog. Now the signs on the park said, leash your dog. But she's a female. She doesn't have to obey the rules. We're looking at the difference between liberty and justice for all. We're looking at the land of the free where she was and the home of the brave where the black man was. And when I hear that song, you know, the national anthem, I think the land of the free, that's all those white folks in the stands at a football game. And the home of the brave, that's those black males on the field who are willing to get their brains beat out in order to make enough money to keep them in their old age. That's the land of the free and the home of the brave.
That is another interesting perspective. Now, do you think the experiences that you have replicated over the years, do you think that they were like received well, or the point went across so good because did it resonate more because it was told through the eyes of children?
It didn't resonate well each time I did it. I have been called every name you could possibly call. My mother kicked me out of the family after my father died. I lost all my friends. My kids lost all their friends. My kids were beaten and spit on and abused, verbally, physically, and physically, because they had what to this day is called an N-word lover for a mother. That did not resonate well. The majority of the United States who agreed with what I did were smart enough to maintain a low profile, keep your head down. And that's what a number of teachers in that system did. They get along to get along. But then several years after I did that exercise, one of the parents of the kids of the child in that class stopped me on the street in Osage and said, "We've been wanting to talk to you for years. We are sorry that we didn't stand up and defend you against the kinds of things that were being said about you. But I said, wait a minute, you don't have to apologize for that. You had to live in that community and you had to get along with those folks. I could move out every day. I could drive over to Osage and live in Osage, and I didn't have to get along with those people except with the teachers when I was in the classroom. I didn't get along with them. I found out how a typhoid Mary must have felt. I could walk down the hall and nobody would speak to me. It got to be so comical. I could ruin their day just by walking into their classroom because they were afraid somebody would see me in there and they'd think that teacher in whose room I was thinking like Jane Elliott, so they couldn't have that happen. It was just a scream. My father said one night after I complained about what was happening, he said, "Jane, just keep smiling. They'll wonder what the hell you're up to." So I'd smile and I'd laugh and I'd chuckle all the way down the hall. And they had to be wondering, why isn't she bothered? I was hating her. What's the matter with this woman? Must be crazy. Well, we knew she was crazy. Look what she did with those poor little children. And laugh and walk away. Because my kids learned something that their teachers didn't know. You need to read this book. Have you read The Color of Law?
I have not. I will go get it.
Oh my God, get this book. It will blow you away when you realize some of the things, and it's so sensible, and I should have known. Parents' economic status is commonly replicated in the next generation. So once government prevented African Americans from fully participating in the mid-20th century free labor market, depressed incomes became for many a multi-generational trait. All you have to do is keep one generation at a low rate, at a low wage, make them work for less than they're worth, make them work as often as you can, and pay them less. And then they don't have enough money to put money, they don't have enough wages to put money away, so they can't have a savings account. So they have nothing to hand down to their children. So you can make that go on generation after generation after generation. And woe be unto the Black person who makes too much money. We'll soon find a way to put a stop to that.
Very true.
You have to read this book. And if you do, you'll realize that the people who wrote the laws learned the same stuff that you and I did. They believed the same myths that our parents, our grandparents, and our great-grandparents did, which was that if you're white, you're all right. You have to read this book. You won't realize what the laws are all about until you read that. And then before you read that, read this.
Okay.
See those two children?
Yes.
Those girls are twin.
Oh.
Those are twin girls. And if you open this and you look to one page, and here is a picture of a map that shows where we started and where those brilliant Black people moved across the face of the earth without any modern technology. And we have convinced them and ourselves that they aren't as smart as we white folks are. But I pull up to the stop sign in Osage, Iowa. There's a big trucker sitting on my right side. Okay, he's gunning his motor because he's on schedule and he's got to go. And he looks down at me and I look up at him and I smile. And I know he's thinking, oh, she thinks I'm cute. What I'm thinking is, well, you big pink idiot, if you knew that what is stopping you right now was invented by a Black man, you'd run that light. But he doesn't know that. So he thinks I'm admiring him, and instead I'm sitting there making fun of him. And I'm thinking, yes, sir, when he guns his motor. And for me, SIR is an acronym for simple, ignorant, racist. Simple as that. So if I call you sir, watch out.
Now, tell me a little bit, just if you could shed some light on what do you think began white supremacy and how do you think we could most effectively fight against it?
If you read the book, The Myth of Race, you will realize that before Columbus discovered America, before 1492, there were blacks and whites, but slavery was not based on the color of your skin. But then, during the Spanish Inquisition, Torquemada and company were trying to kill people who weren't Christian because it's, you can bring people to Christ by killing them. They are much more worshipful when they're at a grave, evidently. But anyway, he was killing people because he thought they weren't Christian. He found out he killed a whole bunch of people who were Christians. So he realized that he couldn't tell what your religion was by looking at you. So he had to find a way to decide who deserved to die, who probably wasn't Christian. And he based it on skin color. And that's how long this particular problem has been going on, only for a little over 500 years. You have to realize that, yes, there have always been people of different colors, but slavery was not dependent on skin color. Slavery was dependent on a whole lot of other things, but not skin color, until the 1400s. So right now, in this country, we are using 15th and 16th century vocabulary and ideas to solve problems in the 21st century. You can't do it. You've got to get into the 21st century if you're going to solve the problems we have. It's entirely different now. We have instant communication. What I say today in 5 minutes can be heard in South Africa and in England. And I get letters from people all over the world now because they're hearing a different kind of story. I don't believe in race. I believe there's only one race. It's the human race. You and I are 30th to 50th cousins because we both have the same ancestor back there 300,000 to 500,000 years ago. That's a fact. And if you don't like it, you have my sympathy, but you still have to be my cousin. Black women keep on keeping on no matter what we do to them. You can't keep them down because they've developed coping skills that we pale faces will never develop because we've never had to live with the kind of treatment that Black people have to live with. I'll never forget the woman at the University of, I think it was University of Indiana. They introduced me and we were going to talk about racism. We were going to talk about differences. And a white woman said, why are we talking about differences? We are all more similar than we are different. Why can't we talk about similarities? I said, I'll show you why. And I didn't intend to do this, but she asked a dumb question. That's a dumb question. So I looked at a white, tall. Well, it is. There are questions that just ought not to be asked. And that's one of them. I pointed at a tall white male sitting there. I said, will you come up here, please? Okay. And he, look at me. I'm tall and white and I'm okay. So I pointed at a taller Black woman. I said, can you come up here? So they stood on one on my left, the white man on my left, and the Black woman on my right. And I said to the audience, and I was thinking, let them not fail this test. Because these were all department heads and administrators. I said, now, do you folks see any differences here? Yeah. I said, what's the first difference you see? They said, height. That's the first difference they saw. I didn't go for it. I just said, okay. I said to this tall male, is your height important to you? Well, did you earn it? No. Did it give you power? Yes. Your height gives you power. Absolutely. I thought, oh, fools, shut up. Shut up now. But they don't know enough to shut up. And I said to this Black woman, is your height important to you? And she said, yes, but there are some other issues to deal with. I said, we'll get to them eventually. So I said, okay, his height gives him power. See any other differences here? So they said, age. I asked him if his age was important to him. Well, yeah, okay. Does it give you power? Yes. So you have power because of your height, because of your age. Yes. To the Black woman, is your age important? She said, yes. No, it doesn't give you power, but there are some other issues to deal with. So I said, once again, do you see any other differences here? And at that point, they said sex. And I said to this tall, pale male, is sex important to you? And then he got red as a beet. And I said, oh, forget that. I just turned you into a man of color. Let's put it another way. Is the fact that you're male important to you? Yes. These things happen. And I know it sounds ridiculous because what we do in this country is ridiculous. He said, yeah, okay. Yes, his gender gives him power. I said, you're pretty powerful, aren't you? Yes, I'm not afraid of anything. So I said to this female, is your gender important to you? Yes, but there are other issues to deal with. I said, all right, we'll get to it. And finally, some woman said color. I said, thank you very much. This is the first time I've ever heard the word color. Now, are you talking about hair color? Skin color? She said, skin color. So I said to this fool on my left, is the fact that you're white important to you? Yes. I said, did you earn your color? No. Is it an award? No. And it's important to you? Yes. To give you power? Yes. Are you afraid of anything? You want to tell me? I don't have any fear at all. Nothing. I'm not a fear of anything. I thought, you just don't know when to shut up, do you, Whitey? I didn't say it. I was totally disgusted. So then I turned to this Black woman and I said, is the color of your skin important to you? And she waited a long moment. And by this time, there was one tear slowly making its way down the side of that beautiful black face. And she said, I'm going to say something now that I've never said before. And I said, and that's because, she said, I'm ashamed of it. I said, and that would be, she said, I have 2 children, both daughters. She said, both times when she said, I didn't want to think of what he'd have to go through, and I didn't want to think about what I'd have to go through when I lost him. And by that time, you heard a feather fall in that room. The only sound you heard was this man on my left going, and I thought, cry, you SOB. You created the problem that you've got for yourself just now, and you enjoyed it. And I said to the group, all right, well, this man doesn't fear anything. This woman has to be sure that she doesn't have a son. White women pray to have a son because the son will carry on the family name. She doesn't even have that privilege, that right, that much freedom. We're talking here about the land of the free, and I pointed at the man, and the home of the brave. That's what we're talking about. And that's what Colin Kaepernick refused to salute during that particular national anthem. The people in the stands, the land of the free and the home of the brave. The home of the brave were those black men on the field getting their brains beat out so that they could have enough to live on in their later years.